Hey everybody, Neil Thompson, founder of Teach the Geek here. I work with technical professionals so they can present more effectively, especially for non-technical audiences. And you can learn more about that at teachthegeek.com. Again, that's teachthegeek.com. And as always, remember to like and subscribe to this YouTube channel, as every bit helps. Have you ever been in a situation where you have to give a technical presentation, but you're concerned about diluting the technical depth of the presentation and making sure that it's clear? How do you balance the two, especially if you're talking to a non-technical audience? Well, I have a couple of, three tips to help you in making sure that that balance is met. Number one, you want to, if you are going to use the technical words that you would normally use, you want to make sure that you also include analogies. When I had to give presentations, often would talk about osteoblasts and osteoclasts. I've mentioned in previous videos that I worked in making spinal implants out of human cadaver bone. And osteoblasts and osteoclasts are types of bone cells. If I were to prattle on about osteoblasts and osteoclasts to a non-technical audience, or at least a non-orthobiologics audience, they'd likely not know what I'm talking about. I certainly could say osteoblast and osteoclast, but then I'd have to use some sort of commonly used words or an analogy. An osteoblast is a bone-forming cell, and an osteoclast is a bone-eating cell. If I were to describe it that way, now people have a visual of a bone being formed and a bone being eaten away. So now whenever I use the term osteoblast and osteoclast, they have a visual in their mind as to what it means. I think that's really helpful, especially when you're talking to a non-technical audience, to help form that visual in their mind. And when you do that, they're likely going to engage and listen to your presentation, and at least not have that question after the presentation or maybe even during it. Number two, you want to use visuals in your presentations as much as possible. And when I say visuals, I'm talking graphs and charts on a slide. But if you have physical visuals, a prototype, some sort of demo that you can do, that's helpful as well. And what that does is it makes the what you're talking about more tangible in the minds of the people. If it's just talking and it's just words on the slides, it's difficult to really get that visual in your mind, as I mentioned earlier. So the use of visuals, both physical and non-physical, can be really helpful. And then number three, you want to seek feedback. I think it's really helpful, especially if you're not all that comfortable giving technical presentations, is to do dry runs with people, especially non-technical people, and get their suggestions as to how you can improve the presentation. Was it clear as to what you were talking about? Was the technical depth there, especially if you were to give this presentation also in front of a technical audience? Did they feel like you were getting rid of a whole lot of the technical meat of the presentation in exchange for making it clearer to a non-technical audience? I know there's a lot of people to satisfy, especially if you have technical and non-technical people in the audience. But ultimately, when you give the presentation, you're going to have to prioritize the people that you're going to be speaking in front of, especially if you're talking in front of decision makers who are non-technical. You likely have to take their point of view into account more than others. So those are the three tips I would have in balancing technical depth and clarity of a presentation. So to recap, number one, if you're going to use technical words, at least use commonly used words to explain them or analogies to explain them. That helps, especially when talking in front of a non-technical audience. Number two, you want to use visuals, whether they are physical visuals like prototypes or non-physical visuals like graphs and charts on slides. And then number three, you want to seek feedback from both technical and non-technical people to get their feedback as to whether the presentation is understandable to them. Hopefully that helps. Again, my name is Neil Thompson. I am the founder of Teach the Geek. I work with technical professionals so they can present more effectively, especially in front of non-technical audiences. And you can learn more about that at teachthegeek.com. Again, that's teachthegeek.com. And as always, remember to like and subscribe to this YouTube channel, as every bit helps. Thanks. Have a great day.